Okay, so we're going to make jam tarts today. So I'm going to take 100 grams of plain flour and we're going to make a sweet short crust pastry as the base of our jam tarts. So you put in the flour into the bowl. We're taking 50 grams of chilled butter that I've cut up into smaller pieces. We're using chilled butter because it will make a nice short pastry, so it'll be crumbly in texture, and I've cut it into smaller pieces so it makes it easier to rub in. So to rub in, we're going to use the tips of our fingers because they're cold as well, so we want to keep everything nice and cold, and rub my thumb across. So we're lifting up the butter and the flour and rubbing it together until it looks like fine breadcrumbs, and this will take you a few minutes to do. So once you've rubbed in all of your butter into your flour, it's going to look like breadcrumbs, a little bit like this. To check that it's ready, you can sugar your bowl. If there's any lumps that come to the top, you can just rub those back in. We're then going to add 25 grams of sugar, remembering that this is a sweet short crust pastry. We're going to give that a wee mix, and we're going to add between 30 and 45 mils of water. And what I'm going to do is add in a little bit at a time rather than putting the whole lot in together and ruining my dough in case it becomes really wet and sticky. So we're just going to use our butter knife, and we're going to mix that together, press into the side of the bowl to bring it together. It obviously needs more, so I'm going to add another 15 ml spoon, so we're up to 30 now. Pressing against the side of the bowl here to bring it together, and I know that I'm going to need more than that. So we're up to 45 now. Keep pressing to the side of your bowl until it forms a nice dough, and that'll just take a few. Once you've got it looking a bit like this, you're going to scrape off the dough from your knife, put it into a ball shape, wrap it in cling film, put it in the fridge for 10 minutes. 10 minutes have passed. I've taken my pastry out of the fridge, and I'm basically going to roll this out. So I'm going to dust my surface with a little bit of flour so it doesn't stick, and we're going to roll this out, and then we're going to cut it so that we can line a patty dish like this. Can't even speak. So we're going to roll it out to approximately 1 centimetre thick. Make sure there's plenty of flour there without putting too much. Don't want to dry your pastry out. And this is just sticking ever so slightly. So roll it, and notice how I didn't need that. I want to keep it really nice and cold so that it gives us really, really good results. So give it another wee roll out. You don't want your pastry to be too thick because when you bite into your jam tart, that's not going to be so pleasant. You're going to have, it's not going to be crisp. Okay, so the cutter that I'm using, make sure that it's bigger than the patty bit itself. Then it'll be able to lap up the sides. So if we cut one, and a wee secret, so we've chilled our pastry, and the whole point of doing that is so that our pastry doesn't shrink away to nothing. We've allowed it to rest. When I've pushed down with my cutter, I've literally pushed down. If you twist, that can kind of distort the shape, and your pastry will kind of shrink in and you won't get such a defined shape. So all I've done here is press down, take one disc of pastry, I'll show you here, and you're gonna pop it into one of the tart holes here and just press down slightly with your finger to form the shape, and you do that using the rest of your pastry to line the rest of them. In this recipe you'll be able to line 6 of your patty cases, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a fork and I'm going to press my fork twice into the bottom of each, and this is going to stop the pastry from puffing up so that when this is cooked it should be flat on the bottom and I'll be able to pour my jam in. You'll notice that I'm making these jam tarts differently to the normal way or the traditional way that you would normally make them. Normally you would just line with pastry, put the jam in and bake it, but what I find is the jam bubbles over and you've got a big mess and it's a nightmare to scrub the jam off. What I've done with the leftover pastry is I've rolled it out and I'm going to use a heart cutter and a star cutter, and these I'm going to just lay on a baking tray, and we're going to bake these at the same time as our pastry cases. So we'll make enough so that each one has a shape to go on top, and this is the pastry that will go on top of the jam. It will all become clear as we go on. So this is going to go back into the fridge, so is this, and we're going to rest it for another 10 minutes. We're really going to make sure that this lovely pastry is not going to shrink on us. Okay, so I've taken these out of the fridge now, nice and chilled again, and I'm going to put these in the oven. The oven has been preset to 180 degrees centigrade, and we're going to bake these for 10 to 15 minutes. And to check for readiness, we're going to have a look at them, and you want them to be cooked on the bottom, so you don't want to see any opaque or soggy pastry there, because remember we're fully cooking these, and they want to be nice and evenly golden brown. Whilst your pastry is cooking, I have put 2 15ml spoons of raspberry jam and 1 15ml spoon of water into a measuring jug, and I'm going to pop that in the microwave for a minute until it starts to bubble, and I'll show you what that looks like when it comes out. So my pastry has been taken out of the oven, and I'm going to use a palette knife. It's looking nice and golden brown, and it'll come out very easily from your tin. Put it up onto a cooling rack, and here I'll swap this over so that you can see. And I'm going to take my jam and I'm going to pour enough in so that it doesn't overflow, and I'm going to pop one of the baked pastry shapes on top, and all I'm going to do to finish these off is dust a little bit of icing sugar on the top of them, and the finished article looks like this. So it's nice and glazed over, and you'll need to leave them until the jam sets.